you remember, so we'll move through fractions, decimals, and then percentages. Okay, if you write an exams, are you following? And you get half of the mark. Half of the mark. That would be, so half of the mark. How would your teacher write that? You write 50%. So 50%. And an equivalent form of, or you could also write it as a fraction in which way? 50 out of 100. That's an equivalent fraction, right? Hello? Watch here. So 50 out of, okay, 50 out of 100. Now, relating to what we learned about decimals, how will you write 50 out of 100 as a decimal? That would be 0.50. Because if you remember, we move this to the left. Every number has, so 5.0 is the same as 5. Do you get that? Because you've got 5 whole, and then they didn't say anything to 10 parts. But usually we just keep it as 5. We don't usually write a 0.0. But every number has 0.0 at it, close to it. Do we get that? Yes. So if that's the case, so we have the dot here, so 0.0. The two zeros. Hello? The 2 zeros tells us to move how many times to the left? 2 times. So we move 1, 2, and then it lands here. 0.50. 50%. Now let's try another one. Let's try writing this fraction 2 over 10. What would be its decimal? The decimal for 2 over 10. Well, okay. The decimal will be 0.2. Okay. So the decimal will be 0.2 or 0.20. What would the percentage be? How are you going to find the percentage? Okay, I'll do this. What concept in fraction would you use? It starts with an E. Watch here, pay attention. That will be what?
Equivalent fraction.
Alright, what's an equivalent fraction for 2 over 10?
4 out of 20.
What's equivalent? Okay, we need to have a fraction. Percentages are fractions that have a denominator of 100. Do you remember that? So we need to have a fraction whose denominator is what? 100. And what would we do to this 10 to get 100? Multiply by
10.
By 10. Good. And the golden rule, what to do to the down? Okay, so that would be 2 times what? 10. We get 20 over here. Do you get that? So 20 over 100. So we can now map this guy. We can now write it here like this. 20 over 100 is the same as 0.2 or 0.20. How am I going to write it? And what's 20 over 100 as a percentage? What is 20 over 100 as a percentage? 20 over 100 as a percentage. 20 over 100, okay. 20%. So that will be 20%. And one other, so we've done about 2 so far. What if you are given something like 4? You'd have to rely a lot of times on equivalent fractions and like fractions. So your mind must go to that lesson. If you have 4 out of 5, how are you going to write this as a decimal or a percentage? What's the first thing to do? What's the first thing to do if you have 4 out of 5 and you have to change it into a decimal and a percentage? What's the first thing? Hello? Watch here. What's the first thing to do? You change it into an equivalent fraction, right? With a denominator of 100. So that would look like this: 100. 5 times what gives you 100?
5 times 10. No, 5 times 20.
5 times 20. Correct. So 5 times, what you do to the down? Okay, so 5 times 20, 100. 4 times 20 is what? 0 is 0. 80. So 80. So if we are able to get it at this point, meaning we have 2 zeros, so we can bring this guy here like this: 80 over 100. And we have how many zeros at the denominator? 2 zeros. That means we move twice. So 1, 2. We land here. So that would be 0.80. And what's going to be the percentage? Okay, Joe. What's going to be the percentage? 80%. So that would look like this. 80%. Here would be comparing fractions, percentages, and decimals at the same time. An example is if you are asked to compare. So compare. Hello. Compare 0.3, 15%, and 1 out of 2. What should be your first reaction? Hello? What should be your first reaction watching this? Yeah, but when it comes to comparing, there is something important. It's an L word. They must be like. Do you hear that? They must be like. You compare people on the same ground. You compare somebody in class 1 and class 1. You compare somebody in class 6 and class 6. So they must have the same features. So before you compare any number, make sure they are like. So you'd have to ensure that they are all either decimals, they are all fractions, or they are all percentages. So now we have here's a case where we have a what here? Hello, what? So decimal. This is what? A percent. And this is a fraction. Yeah. So on your own case, you'd have to find out, okay, what do I want to compare them in? Which of them do you want? Should they all be decimals, fractions, or percentages? What do you prefer?
Fractions.
Okay, fractions. Let's try and see. So what's 0.3? 0.3 as a fraction. 3/10. Hello, please hurry up. Alright, so 3/10. What's 15% as a fraction? 15% as a fraction. 15%. Cent. That'll be what? Exactly. 15/100. And then 1 out of 2 is already a fraction. However, they are all fractions now, right? But are they like fractions? Okay. So we'd have to make them like. They should all have a denominator of what? 100. So that would mean multiply. Good. So they all have an LCM of 100, right? Or we want them to have a denominator of 100, 100, and then 100. So 10 times what gives us 100?
10 times 10.
Okay, times 10. What you do to the down?
Yes.
So 3 times 10 as well. So that would be 30. 100 is here already. So 100 times what? 1. 15 times 1. We still get 15 here. Alright. So 2 times 2 times what gives us 100?
2 times 50.
50. Good. And then the same thing for the top. 1 times 50. So that would be 50 over. Okay, 50 over 100. Can we compare now? So let's compare in two forms. In ascending. What ascending order? Okay. Go.
We are climbing now.
Yeah. Climbing. In other words, from the
From the lowest to
from the lowest
the highest.
and descending will be.
From the highest to the lowest.
Okay. So if we should compare this in ascending order. That would be from the least to the lowest. Right? So what's the smallest here? 15 over. Okay, so that would be 15 over 100. Followed by
50 over 100.
okay, 50 over 100. So 15 over 100, 30 over 100, and then 50 over 100. However, make sure you don't leave. However, make sure you don't leave your answer in this form, because the question was given to you this way. So you'd have to write it in the form that you are giving the question in. So that would mean that in ascending, what value here gave me 15 over 100? 15%, right? So you must put the answer in the original form you met it. So that would be 15 over 100. So okay, 15% followed by 0.3 followed by 1 out of.
1 out of 2.
All right. So that's how we compare